There's Desmos scientific calculator and there's Desmos graphing calculator. So to do these trig functions, I'm going to change what I'm sharing. We want to use the Desmos scientific calculator, and I put in today's homework a quick video showing how to use this and use the inverse trig. I actually think, yeah. So, but we can do sine, cosine, and tangent in here just like we can on the calculators in class. And we'll be able to use, so it has a main screen, and then this is just a keyboard, and then the function screen. And so you can see sine, cosine, and tangent there. And then what we're going to look at today is inverse sine, cosine, and tangent. So this is something you should have. Like I said, I also would recommend you put it on your phone, but let me just show it to you again. Get out of here. So if you're joining us later, the app on your phone, there's two Desmos app. You want the scientific calculator app. And so anybody who's in the gold group, I'll see you tomorrow, but you will be, you'll be taking your assessment at home next Tuesday. So you're going to want to have that. You can't do this without having a scientific calculator. So just either here or on your Chromebook, the link is in the homework. Okay, any questions on that? Have something available to you today to do that. And I actually might use, I think I might use my phone because then I don't have to keep switching screens. If you can see it okay, I'll just use my phone instead. Okay. So yesterday we talked about trig and sine, cosine, and tangent and how to use that to find a missing side. So if you're in the gold group, hopefully you watched the video. I'm going to move that away for a minute. And we learned SOHCAHTOA, where we know sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent opposite over adjacent. And it's all based on the perspective of the angle we're given. So we're given this angle, we never go from the 90-degree angle. What side is 14 here in this example? Is it opposite, adjacent, or the hypotenuse of the triangle? What is 14? Hold on, my volume's way down here. It won't go up. My volume's stuck off. Hold on. You might need, yeah, just use the time. That's weird. I can't turn my volume up. It's stuck at very low. Okay. Yes, this is the hypotenuse. And the side that's labeled X, that would be my from 68, the side that is opposite. So when I look at the two sides I'm given, so I have opposite and hypotenuse, and then I look at SOHCAHTOA and I go, okay, I should be using sine here because sine uses opposite and hypotenuse. So I say the sine of 68 equals opposite over hypotenuse, opposite over hypotenuse. And then we just take our trig function, put it over 1, and cross multiply. So this is going to give me 14 times the sine of 68 equals X. And that's where we need our scientific calculator. So now in my calculator, so one important thing is make sure you're in degrees. So if I click this over, it changes it to radians. It should be kind of automatically set in degrees, but that's important to check. And I'm just going to type in 14 times the sine of 68, and I don't even have to hit enter. It's just going to show up over here. And I'm going to round, it says round to the nearest 10th. Well, that's a little tricky. I'm going to go to the hundredths place. So, well, let's write it in the hundredths place first. So it's X equals 12.98. If I round it to the nearest 10th, then that's just going to round up to 13.0. This would become 10. So either one of those would be fine. But that's what you need that calculator for, is to be able to put in those trig functions. Okay. So now, sorry, I'm multitasking, trying to mark people in as they come in. So now looking at our next example on this warm-up, here's my angle. The side that's 12 would be my what side in relationship to 60? It's connected to the angle, which means it is adjacent, exactly. And then across from 90 degrees is my hypotenuse. So I have adjacent and hypotenuse. That's cosine that I want to use. Okay, this is what this helps me with, is knowing which function to use. So I know that the cosine of this angle 60 equals adjacent over hypotenuse, 12 over x. There's my setup. Then I take my trig function and put it over 1 and cross multiply. Now for this one, I get x times the cosine of 60 equals 1 times 12 or equals 12. And so what I need to do is solve for x. So here I just cross multiplied and I was able to plug this in right away. Whereas here I need to divide out that cosine of 60 to solve for x. We talked about that in class yesterday. So sometimes it's multiplying, sometimes we're dividing, and we really have to do the setup, cross multiply and see which situation we have. And then in my Desmos calculator, I can just click clear all and type in 12 divided by the cosine of 60, and it gives me that x equals 24. Okay, now let's talk about, sorry, I was trying to make that clearer, but it didn't really help much. Let's talk about that I could have done this another way because it was 60. So because it was 60, and here was x, this is a 30, 60, 90. So one thing I could have done is I could have used trig to solve there, or I could have said, well, this is a 30, 60, 90. So the side across from 30 is x, the hypotenuse is 2x, and the side across from 60 is x rad 3. And so I could have said, oh, x is 12, this side is 2 times x, this side is 24. I get the same answer. Okay, so I could have used special rights because it was a special angle. Couldn't have done that here. Or I can use trig and find that. Okay, so now we have more than one option when we have these special triangles. On 3, here's my angle, 53. So I have 2 sides. What 2 sides do I have here on this example? Opposite and adjacent. I love that Michaela's participating, but you all have a test coming up, not just Michaela. Okay, so let's get some other participation in there. So when I look at my, I'll just rewrite it. So Katoa, opposite and adjacent tells me I should use tangent. So I know that the tangent of 53 equals opposite over adjacent, x over 19. Put that trig function over 1, cross multiply. 19 times the tangent of 53 equals x. And go ahead and use your Desmos calculator. 19 times the tangent of 53, and it's giving me 25.2. Oops, just took a picture by accident from my side length. Okay, and then same idea here. So I would say this is adjacent and hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse would be cosine. Cosine of 43 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Cross multiply. X equals 10 times the cosine of 43. 10, oops, 10 times the cosine of 43. And x equals 7.3. Okay, so that's a skill we're going to need for our upcoming test. Now, today we're going to look a little bit more at trig, and we're going to take some quick notes. Notes number 7 on inverse trig. So if you can find your notes real quick, I'll give you a moment. I'm going to, okay. So on my first one, regular trig, here's my angle. I would say I have opposite and hypotenuse here. So which trig function should I use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Sine, yeah, opposite hypotenuse, I want sine. So the sine of 34 equals x over 11. This is what we did for our warm-up. Cross multiply, x equals 11 times the sine of 34. So now you're just getting calculator practice. You type that in and I will too. Sine 34, and I get that x is about 6.2 rounded, 6.151121, so on. Okay, so I go, okay, missing side, regular trig, cross multiply and solve. Okay, missing angle, I'm going to do inverse trig, and so from this angle, I have a hypotenuse, and this side's connected to the angle is adjacent. So which trig function do I want to use? Cosine. And so I go, well, the inverse cosine, so I'm not using regular trig, inverse trig, because it's an angle of 9/12, and it's really just a calculator activity, right? So I have to know which function to use. And then I put in the ratio, 9/12, and I'm using in my calculator inverse cosine of 9/12, and you do the same. And to the nearest degree, I get 41 degrees. It's 41.4. Okay. So on 3, am I using inverse trig or regular trig? Inverse trig. I'm missing an angle. And so from this angle, I would say that I have the opposite side and the adjacent side. And so if I have opposite and adjacent, and I look at SOHCAHTOA, I'm using tangent. I'm using inverse trig, so I'm just writing it out. The inverse tangent of 1840 seconds. And then my calculator does all the math for me. My calculator keeps turning off on me. The inverse tangent of 1840 seconds, and I get, so rounding to the nearest degree, 23 degrees. Okay. Okay, so for this one, here's my angle. Am I using regular trig or inverse trig to solve for x? Regular, yeah. And I have opposite and adjacent again, so that's tangent. And the tangent, I know my angle, so the tangent of 72 equals x over 14. Cross multiply. X equals 14 times the tangent of 72. Put that into your calculator. Gives me approximately 43.1 rounded for that missing side. On 5, inverse trig or regular trig? Inverse. Which trig function should I use here? Which trig function should I use? Tangent, yeah. So I have opposite and adjacent again. This is my hypotenuse over here. Hypotenuse is always the side across from 90. I don't have that side. I have opposite and adjacent. And so I say the inverse tangent of the opposite over the adjacent side is what's going to tell me my angle. The inverse tangent of 22 over 24. That's a tiny angle. Oh, I typed it in wrong. 22 over 24 gives me, rounding to the nearest degree, so I get 42.5 something, so I'm going to write that as 43 degrees to the nearest degree. Okay, I have my angle, I'm missing a side, a lot of tangent here. I again have opposite and adjacent, so this is regular trig. The tangent of 27 equals x over 13. Cross multiply, x equals 13 times the tangent of 27. Gives me 6.6 for that missing side. Okay, and I'll scan these in afterwards too if you want to look at them. So let me give you kind of a plan for the next couple of days. So what you have for work today to submit is homework 39. So you should have already submitted, by the way, and I'll give you feedback on this. This checkout special right triangles. This is in your homework packet. This was due today, but if you haven't done it yet, certainly do this. This is with our 45, 45, 30, 60, 90. And then today, so in class yesterday, we did 2 of these. This is just writing the ratio. You're not solving anything on these first 4. Then 5 through 10, it says find the missing side. Well, if we're finding the missing side, that's going to be regular trig, or we're going to be using SOHCAHTOA and cross multiplying. But on the back side of this, it says find the missing angle. That's going to be inverse trig, okay, because it's an angle that we're missing. So that's the homework for today. Tomorrow we are going to do, so we'll go over that homework tomorrow. We'll do a warm-up tomorrow. We are going to do some word problems with this trig stuff. So you'll see that's our last set of notes in here. You may want to tune in if you're going to be at home. I don't think they're crazy hard. They're really, you just draw a picture, and then from there, the picture is exactly like the pictures we already have going on over here. So that we'll do tomorrow. I am not there Friday. I'm not in the building Friday. I have something that was scheduled from a long time ago. So if you're in the building, then you're just going to be working on the review, the homework at the end of the packet, which means you don't have any homework Thursday night. You have the class period Friday to work on that, and I'll make sure that that's correct in the system. Okay, so Friday, if you're at home or in the building, you're just using that time to do unit review. On Monday, when the blue group is in, we'll go over their unit review. And then Tuesday, everybody's taking the unit test before vacation. So if you're at home, you need to zoom in. If you're in the blue group, you're there, so it's going to happen anyway. Okay, but if you're at home, remote or gold group, you need to zoom in Tuesday the 22nd. If you don't, you're going to be missing a test. And then we're going to be gone for a week and a half, and we're going to come back, and you're just going to have to take that test, and that won't be an easy task to accomplish. Okay, so you all want to schedule an alert to remind yourself to log in at like 9:20 on that Tuesday, especially if you're in the gold group, so you don't miss a test before vacation. And then that way you have nothing lingering over vacation. It will be open notes, so you can use your resources. So make sure your notes are completely filled out and your homeworks have been checked against the keys and all of that good stuff. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so if you don't have any questions for me, you can head out and start working on your homework. And I will see some of you tomorrow.